Ooh, it says we're live. I already knew we were alive, but now the sign told us we were alive. So
Yeah.
just in case you were questioning that, Monique.
Right. You need the big red banner to say
Yeah.
yes.
Yes. Sometimes our OCD may say to us, "We're not really here. It's a dream of a giant monster or a computer simulation." But
Mhm.
the computer told us we're alive, so I guess we're
It has to be
we're
true.
alive. It must be
If
true.
it says so.
The computers never lie, and that's what people with OCD research like to think as well. Unfortunately, is that
Because
I
the
read
internet
it.
is always true.
Oh, there's no false information online
No.
whatsoever. Yeah,
Mm.
never, never, never. Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to another edition of our Wednesday night webinar brought to you by NoCD. NoCD, an online platform for the treatment of OCD and related conditions. And we work with people in all 50 states. We take insurance, and we do some work in some other countries as well too. And tonight, I am thrilled to be joined by a couple of guests. I've got Monique Williamson. Hi, Monique. Good to see you again.
Hey.
And Anthony Wilkins, who has shown up fashionably a moment late. I will tease him forever about now because that's what we do. And I don't know if he's found his microphone or not yet, but it says it's off at the moment. He'll go to settings, Anthony, and check the microphones. There you go. Yeah. Well, we'll have him work on that then. All right. Hey, can we hear you now? Can we hear you? Oh no.
Can you hear me now?
No, those are the worst headphones created in
I
the
was like,
the
yeah,
world.
a
By
little
the way,
medium at best.
just throw those
Can you
out.
hear me
Yeah, much better.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Yes. Take those headphones and stomp on them. They are trash. So yes.
Will do.
I mean, wires are very 2010s.
Yeah. Well, Anthony does not know about Wi-Fi yet, so we were gonna break into the first Bluetooth, and then we were gonna talk about Wi-Fi afterwards.
Yeah.
Oh, all the people listening out there, like, what are these fools talking about? And you know what we're going to talk about is OCD and related stuff. So, hello everyone, and as always, thank you all for joining us. We do appreciate having you here today. Now, Anthony, I don't know what that background noise is, but it sounds like you have us now in an aquarium, Anthony, and we are underwater. So. And now he has removed himself. Oh, wait, he's back.
That's perfect. Yeah. Sorry, I was a fan.
I was the fan. All right, very good. So much better. Perfect. All right. Well, hey, let's get into some Q&A and just see what we have. The first question comes from Adam. Adam asks about what we think of TMS versus antidepressants for depression, of course. Do you have any opinion on psychedelics for trauma? So a couple of things that I can just throw in on here. Antidepressants are usually the first line of treatment, and if you're using insurance, they're going to go that route first. TMS then is usually going to come if you have tried a few rounds of antidepressants and haven't seen the results that you want. Then that's typically when people will go into a TMS treatment. And now there's an FDA-approved TMS for OCD too. It's called Deep TMS. It's a different coil than the one that you use for the depression, but it has been helpful for some folks as well. And in terms of psychedelics, oh geez, there's so much going on with that right now, and there's so much research out there, and we don't have any definitives as of yet. So I say stay tuned on that one because there's a lot more coming down the line. But I think it'll be interesting to see what the results are going to be and how it all looks. So, I don't know if Anthony or Monique, you have members who have worked on these things or tried that or anything?
No, I have not, but I would be interested to learn about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's new.
Yeah, very new. Multi-Magnum Force says, thanks us for all the help we bring to OCDers out there in the world. Well, and thank you for being with us as well.
Thanks. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Anonymous has kind of a long one, so I'm going to truncate it a little bit. Says OCD's latched on to relationships, and every time now it feels like she's forced to choose her or him. Do you do what's best for OCD treatment, or do you continue to prioritize him? I don't know why there has to be this or that. I think that you can prioritize your relationship and it be in the best interest of your OCD treatment also. But what do you think, guys? What was your thought on
Yeah, I don't think that, like you said, right? I think it's an and, right? Like the things that help make us healthy create better relationships, right?
that?
If we want to be able to be like healthy and whole, right? Like the best way that we can do that is by having good mental health and being able to communicate well and communicate right our needs in a relationship. And when relationships right prioritize right both of their partners' needs, like we tend to flourish.
Yeah. I think back to when my wife was sick. Believe me, there were points where I had flashes in my head of, it'd be best for me in this situation would be, see ya. I'm gonna get out of here because, boy, being a caretaker was not easy. But
Yeah.
I had to figure out a way to prioritize taking care of my needs as well as taking care of her needs at the same time until she passed away. And you could do that, right? You can have two priorities at the same time. I think sometimes we say that's not possible, but you can absolutely work on OCD treatment while working on your relationship.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be every day, like some days, like your relationship will take priority and that's great. And some days, right, like your treatment and therapy will have to take priority, and being able to, right, like balance those things out is definitely what will make it be easier in the process.
Yeah. She asked, doesn't he deserve to know the OCD intentions in case he wants to move on? It feels like treatment versus morals. Boy, OCD loves to throw those all or nothings at people, doesn't it? Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Notice OCD never says, hey, I think we could really make this relationship work. I'm really excited about it. I've not seen OCD ever say that whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. OCD doesn't tell you nice things. It's never like, oh, it'll be all right. All right, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. No one's ever gotten a nice card in the mail from OCD. Right?
Yeah.
Right,
OCD
just think about you.
Go ahead, Anthony.
Anthony.
Oh, okay. OCD always tries to get you like triggered, or at least like in that fight or flight, like I have to respond right now or the world's going to end.
Right.
Mhm.
OCD leaves a flaming bag of shit at your door and rings your doorbell and then runs. That's what it does. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, great. I didn't know we could use profanity today. So
Oh, well, the word shit is a fun word as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah, we can.
No,
What OCD gives us.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
No, yeah. It's I always tell people to, like, when they're noticing their intrusive thoughts, like, feel that if you are feeling that sense of urgency, right? Like there's like this next step, like, oh, let me do it. Let me figure it out. Let me go right? Like that's going to be a really good like clue in that, okay, well, why does this have to happen right now? Right? There's so many things that we have to do, like this one, right? Like we were just talking about priorities, right? Like whatever OCD decided, like now, right? Like that water bottle, that's the most important thing in your life right now, unless you touch it.
Mm-hmm.
And right, just being able to like recognize those urges, right? Like that feeling of we just have to is a really great way to be able to notice, like, oh wait, let me be a little suspicious.
I think we should also be a bit suspicious of OCD because I don't know what you two think, but I've never found OCD to have anyone's best intentions at heart.
No. It's very controlling.
Yeah. It's like an internally domestic violent relationship in a way, right? I mean, because it just delivers the bad and the beatings and the yellings and the cruelties and the names and the dishing out of awfulness. It doesn't deliver, a bouquet of roses, a box of chocolate. And
yeah, like when has it ever been nice to you?
Yeah. No one got butterfly kisses from OCD, right? That's not happened at all.
It's like kind of like escaping Shawshank in the sense where you have to climb through your own shit to get through freedom. And it's like you're sifting through all these nasty, horrible, heinous thoughts that I tell my members, like, these are the things that we don't want, but OCD is saying, here, you want to do this. And you got to sift through it to get out of it.
By the way, thank you,
timed
Anthony.
Halloween reference.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for quoting one of the greatest movies ever made in the history of all movies.
Truly is.
Yeah. Yes,
Truly is.
Is Shawshank Redemption the one? I actually am a member of Weenie Hut Jr. I hate horror movies.
It's not a horror film.
It's not a horror movie.
Is that the one where he's in jail and then he breathes out butterflies?
No, that's Green Mile. That's Green Mile.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah. No.
I've never seen Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, you need to. It is, even though it's written by Stephen King, it's one of his short stories. It's not a horror film at all.
The one rarity. One rarity.
Yeah.
He has a couple other ones that aren't horror. I've read several.
The Langoliers was good. I like that one.
Yeah, the one about the Kennedy assassination was good.
Okay.
It's like, was it 1964? Whatever day Kennedy got shot is the name.
Quentin says, today he was doing some ERP about suicidal thoughts. He wrote, "I want to die." And while doing it, he thought about the note that I have in my wallet that says, "I hope my parents die tonight." And he said, when that was in his head, he was like, my anxiety was gone. It went away. It was meaningless, these words that I wrote down. And he's one of our sustained conquerors here at NoCD. So that's awesome. Good job, Quentin. Now, obviously we don't start there, right? We don't have to start there with somebody, but we know that OCD goes everywhere. And one of the places OCD might go is, what if you wanted to harm yourself? What if you wanted to kill yourself? What if you wanted to cut yourself or something like that? I mean, there's no what if that's off the table in the treatment of OCD. And so it will definitely go there. But good job, Quentin, on being able to recognize that no matter what pops into your head, you can just be able to deal with it. And that's what it is. Jay Javert says he gets stuck in his head a lot, or their head a lot. I don't know. Their head, I'll say, with the smallest things. Knows sometimes it's okay. Sometimes you can tolerate it, but it's like you're walking on eggshells sometimes, making sure you don't go near anything and avoid causing something bad to happen. That's where OCD, I think, is really kind of demonic in a way, where it makes us believe in some ways that we have superpowers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could actually cause something bad to happen by walking near something, or by thinking something, or by having an urge about something. And I'm just curious, from both of you and the work you've done with people, how much truthiness do you find OCD gives to people, and do you see in the work you're doing?
You said truthiness?
Yes, I'm quoting Stephen Colbert with truthiness. So,
I always tell people, right, just enough to make you suspicious.
Okay, there we go. I like that.
Right, when it's just like, I mean, this could happen. And I'm like, technically, right? Like, for sure, right? Like, the ceiling could fall in. Yes, absolutely. That does happen to people. However, right, like, just because things do happen, right, doesn't mean we need to always be concerned about them. I always tell them, like, would you wait at a bus for 2 years if you just like weren't sure the bus was gonna come? If we're just like, no, but in wind, rain, sleet, snow, everything will just stay here just in case.
Just in case the bus comes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And no, right. And it's the same thing with the ceiling falling in. Like, yeah, for sure, right? Like, a bus could come, the ceiling could fall in, but I'm not willing to wait for 2 years for it.
I have wished,
try to convince you.
I have wished for this ceiling to collapse on me so many times. It's stupid. I mean,
I know. That's why you make me think about that every time.
Yeah. All right. Well, so Jay, here's the thing. No matter what happens to you, you cut your finger, you're worried that maybe it's damaged, maybe it will cause others to be contaminated, whatever it is. We know that OCD loves to jump to the worst case scenario, never the best case scenario. And I like to ask people to consider going with their second thought sometimes, instead of trusting the first thing that pops in their head, because if OCD is the ruler of the first thing that pops into your head, and we know that, why do we even have to pay any attention to it or believe it? Why not just maybe go with the second thing that pops in your head, which is usually a little bit softer, a little bit nicer, a little bit more even, a little bit more neutral than the extreme first case scenario that always goes to that worst case scenario.
Yeah. It's like training the mind and how to like recognize the negative and also shifting it to go to the positive, yet sitting at 0, which is hard.
Yeah, or even if you don't even have to go to the positive, maybe eventually you can do that. But I'm happy if you go to the neutral, right?
Yeah.
Because some people might take, I have to go to the positive almost like a compulsion and take it all the way there. So let's just go to the neutral, right?
Yeah,
And
let's just be even.
Let's be there.
I've told you before, a lot of times I talk to you, I was like, what if we were just like medium people? What if we just like found a good little medium? We didn't have to be super awesome. We don't have to be just like medium. And then if we did that in our language where it wasn't particularly like glowing and wonderful, and also like we weren't mean to ourselves, and we just were like, oh, you know what? That did happen. Rather than, oh, I can't believe I did this. That was terrible. That made that happen.
Mm-hmm. Caden says, I feel like having OCD is a burden. I've been in a relationship for 7 years and can't bring myself to propose because I don't want her to be with me and have a lesser life because of your OCD. You don't want to hurt her and put her through pain for the rest of her life. If you're depressed and anxious due to your OCD, you're worried it's attached to your thoughts and this on this as well. How do you do ERP for it?
Okay. Mine was going to be different. I always tell people that's not your choice to make.
Well, I like that. Go more on that, though. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, for sure. So like I've had clients who struggle with relationship OCD and a couple of things. Actually, it's the opposite of like you can't read other people's minds, right? Like you can't.
Wait a minute. I am going to try to read your mind right now. Hold on. Chocolate cake. Why am I getting
I hate chocolate.
All right. See, well, I did not read your mind at all. All right. So there we go. That was terrible.
I've been reading mine.
Oh, I was reading Anthony's mind. Oh, darn it. It came through the fiber net differently than yeah.
Yeah. And so like we can't read people's minds, and we're also not responsible for their choices, right? And if that choice is you, right, then we have to respect, right, the choice that they make. And a lot of times I think people with OCD very much want to be on both ends of the conversation, right? Like I want to say it and say it back to each other because they're so used to doing that back and forth, right, with the intrusive thoughts, that like learning to stop speaking for other people or putting words in their mouth or like saying like, oh, this is going to go wrong, this is going to go bad, is a really important step in being able to like move past the OCD, because you have to stop having those like one-sided conversations. Most of the time you're just rehearsing disasters.
Yeah. I agree with you. I like the idea that it really would be Caden's fiance's choice to make in this situation. OCD will always throw up barriers for a reason to not be with somebody, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm assuming, Anthony and Monique, you've not had someone with OCD show up to a session and say, I'm afraid everyone loves me and thinks I'm awesome.
Nope, never.
Nope.
Never had
it. Not yet. I'm really waiting for it.
I'm hoping. Yeah, but no.
But I think with relationship OCD, it's recognizing like, well, yeah, you could ruin her life or you couldn't. Maybe not. Sitting with that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a chance I could be not a good husband, but what would that look like? But also adding that ambiguity to like, what are the thoughts saying? Like about the relationship. And
yeah,
I'm one of those people that, especially with relationship OCD, is like, what is the big fear? And is it like the fear of if you guys did break up, or all the stuff leading up towards the breakup?
Yeah. So, and let's be honest, it's a coin toss. Even if you didn't have OCD and you went into the relationship and marriage, it's still a coin toss.
Yep. 50%.
So, And I use in this example all the time. Maybe, Caden, what I should have done is had my wife do a very thorough physical before we got married, because then I would have known of the cancer. And then I could have said to her, oh, I will not be marrying you anymore now. You are not in healthy, tip-top shape. And as advanced as this cancer is, I see you will probably not live for more than 10 years. So I will just be walking away now from this relationship. Now, I think most people would have thought, well, that's kind of a jerk move right there if I were to do something like that, right? So, the last time I checked, marriage vows were in sickness and in health, in good times and in bad. Some of us got mostly sickness in our marriage. I did, right? But you know what? I don't go around now saying that no one should get married.
Mm-hmm.
If people are getting married, I say congratulations. I hope it works great, and I do. I sincerely hope it works great. I know in the back of my head it might not, and I think that all of us have to kind of accept the fact that we can't read the future, but OCD tells us that we should.
Yeah, that you should know.
Mm-hmm.
That you should always it's like you can't know unless you can read the future. And then if you can, please come talk to me about the lottery numbers.
Yeah, really. Who's going to win the horse races tomorrow? And when's the next time the roulette wheel lands on 17 or 18 or 19 or 20 or 21 or 22 or whatever it is?
We'll take them back to Vegas for the next no CD trip.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Put that chip back down. Mm-hmm. Stephanie says,
can I take questions also?
Yeah. If you want to grab one, go. Just jump.
Yeah, no, I'll start looking.
All right, go. Yeah, please. I just usually go down the line, but if you two are scrolling and you see anything that you like, please feel free. Yeah. Stephanie says you have OCD and anxiety for 5 years and it's destroying your life. You cry every day to release the inner pain you're experiencing, and you're suffering from suicidal ideation daily. You don't know what to do anymore. First of all, Stephanie, we hope that you will reach out to someone like OCD for therapy, because no one has to suffer with this. And there is great treatment available. So check out the International OCD Foundation, iocdf.org. Check out NoCD at nocd.com. In your state, there's probably great providers for OCD and specialists. There are probably free support groups that are out there for anxiety and for depression and for OCD. And we want you to go and take the risk and be with other people. One of the things that I get to do every year is speak at the International OCD Foundation Conference. You've got over 2,000 people who treat OCD, have OCD, and are family members of people with OCD in one place. And they're celebrating being able to have a community of people together who support them. So, Stephanie, there's people here who want you to be successful and be supported. So please reach out to one of those folks and get the help that is available. Did you two want to jump anywhere? Feel free.
Yeah, I just came. Vanessa says, how can you help someone that wants help but can't take the first step? He says it's too triggering to his compulsions. I feel like he's just waiting on the perfect day to start. So how do we support somebody to get into therapy?
Well, they will never start if they're waiting for the perfect day to start. Let's just be honest about that, because there is no perfect day. It just does not exist.
Mm-hmm.
Have either of you had a perfect day? I'm just curious. Have either of you had a perfect day? Where nothing, like you didn't even stub your toe.
Okay, so I won't lie. I'm kind of an optimist. So I'm one of those people that if something like bad happened, I probably would have been like, yes, it was good, wonderful. So
well, there's a difference between wonderful and perfect, right? I'm fine with having a wonderful day. I got no issues with wonderful days.
I don't think I can. I think I've had just like really wonderful days.
Okay. But you haven't had a perfect day. And so that's where one thing that I want to take a look at is if there isn't going to be a perfect day, if we've lied to ourselves into the belief that there is, but we know the reality is that there is not. Is this a mom and a child? Is that what this was here, or Monique? Or
she does not say.
Because sometimes what I do with families is I'll say, okay, here's the deal. OCD is not welcome in our home. It is a third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh wheel, whatever. And it only brings sadness to our family. It does not bring joy or happiness or anything positive. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take you to therapy today. We're going to get started, and it's always your choice to attend. If you choose to attend, wonderful. If you don't, there's no screen time. There's no doing all these other things that you're doing, waiting around for the perfect day to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of waiting for the perfect day to happen, we'll just try to quote unquote make the perfect day happen, and we'll just randomly call that today, and we'll do what we can. And sometimes we have to just do that.
Follow up. Yeah. Oh, sorry. She says she's a mom of a 22-year-old and super worried about his OCD being off control or out of control in the last 3 months, and would like to get the right help for him. She's very concerned. So yeah, he's 22.
And sometimes there's interventions where you bring other family members into the situation. Mm-hmm. If it's that bad, there are even PHPs, IOPs, residentials where you can get started to do intensive treatment. If it's a residential, you can even go live there. So you don't even have to worry about transportation or something of that nature. So again, there's tons of different places to go and check out to see if they might be able to give you even more of an intensive help that you might need. Cool. Anthony, did you find one you liked? Did you?
I think Mary H. What do you do when you feel like your thoughts end up triggering the ROCD and you end up ruminating as a compulsion? What can be done? I think definitely with ruminating, it's always hard because that one is like a mental compulsion, which I've seen people say like, "Oh, I have pure O," but it's like if you're still doing mental compulsion, it's still a compulsion. And it's with rumination, it's like if you're trying to outthink it, sometimes recognizing like, wait, where's my mind going? Where am I feeling more? Am I getting more worked up as I'm sitting with these thoughts, or am I getting less triggered? And I know with some of my members using the response prevention messages, like maybe this could happen, adding some ambiguity. But I think definitely gaining like that mindfulness skill, just catching yourself. But sometimes it is hard when you're ruminating to break free. So I do recognize like it's one of those double-edged swords.
Yeah. I always ask my clients, I was like, how much time are you spending with your thoughts? Mm-hmm. Right? Like, are we noticing that we're just like kind of spinning, like we're having back and forth, so we're in a full conversation and like we're kind of still in this. And so some of the things that we do to kind of increase that awareness around, right, like what their intrusive thoughts and the rumination can sound like is I call it like a little response prevention T-chart where I have them write out intrusive thoughts and then like the following, like the response prevention statement. So that way they can start catching like, oh, wait, this is the things that it will ask me, right? It'll be like, oh, well, like, do you love your husband? Right? Like, do you actually want to be here? What if he doesn't love you? And so then they're able to kind of catch those like questions that start the rumination. And then they start getting like, oh, do your husband love me? It's like, nope, like not that one, right? Like other thoughts can come in, but not you. And so that has really helped them on being able to like decrease the amount of time that they spend with their rumination. Is just noticing what the questions sound like that like lead them into it in the first place.
The thing that I like to have people do is go on living your life, even if this is going on. A lot of people will pause their life and think, I got to figure this out first. Mm-hmm. And then after it's figured out, then I'll go on with my life. But I'm going to use a word that I made up here. Some of these things are unfigureoutable, right? And therefore, if you're not going to figure out the unfigureoutable, you're going to be stuck in the unfigureoutable forever, which is exactly where OCD wants you, right? Yep.
I always tell them with uncertainty, you're putting a question mark where OCD is demanding an answer.
You got it, right? OCD wants you there. Mm-hmm. That is its bread and butter right there. It wants you in that position.
Yeah. kind of like devil's. I use like a lot of Harry Potter analogies too, like devil's snare, like where it's like we just got to sit there and let it pull us through, because it's gonna start pulling us. It's gonna get us deeper. And so, also I think with ERP, which is so powerful, is when people are triggered by their thoughts. As a therapist, I don't know about you, Monique, but I'm able to see when people start ruminating with their eyes, or like they start it's something in the eyes and they start doing something.
It's like, wait a minute.
And it's like, and then it's like, hey, are you ruminating? And then they'll start recognizing, oh wait, I think I was. Oh wait, you're right, I was. So it's like, I think ERP is really interesting, especially when people do notice the skill building part too.
Yeah.
I really got to start putting more Harry Potter references in my therapy. I don't know what I've been doing. I have a Harry Potter tattoo. What's wrong with me?
What? Oh my.
Yeah, I have technically it's an Easter egg in my tattoo. Is my tattoo says "do better," and the O is the Deathly Hallows.
Oh.
Wow. Right, and I haven't been using any Harry Potter. That's crazy.
Now you got to do it.
I sure will.
Meg says Halloween is making her OCD worse with thoughts and making her worried all the time. It's hard not to do compulsions. I think that's a timely question with Halloween right around the corner tomorrow. Let's talk a little bit about All Hallows Eve. And does it actually mean anything whatsoever?
And mean anything in what way?
Like
do more bad things happen on Halloween, or is that just movies telling us that it does? I've seen no evidence of the fact that it actually does. Personally, I will say.
Yeah, same. Right. Unless you follow like spooky, shaky, rumble things, then no. That's what I call scary things, the shaky, rumble.
Like, so that's the official term for scary things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Shaky, rumble.
Yeah. I mean, unless you're in the Halloween movie franchise, I don't think Halloween is a scary season. But then again, they make April Fool's Day, Happy Birthday, Christmas.
I'm not scared of Halloween. I am scared of scary things.
When the 12th Snow White or Thor comes to my door for candy, I'm not spooked by any means whatsoever. I mean, it's just not frightening to me. I don't know. Like, oh, hello, Thor. Ah, you know. Yeah. So, but on the other side, OCD will say, but you know what they said? OCD loves to quote they. I don't know who they are, but OCD thinks they know everything. And so OCD will say, oh, well, they said that this is more likely on Halloween, or Halloween stands for evil and darkness and everything. But there are countries that don't have Halloween or celebrate Halloween. So October 31st to them is just October 31st. Right? Just like Friday the 13th is very lucky in Italy, but really? Friday the 17th is not so much. Yeah. Yeah. So every culture has a different thing, right? Some people argue 666 is bad, but others say it's actually 999, that they got it wrong, that it's inverted. So which one is it? Is it 999 or 666? Is
4 is unlucky in China.
4 is unlucky in China. All right. Well, I bet we could find every number in some culture or belief system would be unlucky, which means everything's unlucky. Every day probably has something associated with it. In fact, I've got a book upstairs someone gave me. It's called Shit That Happened on This Day. And it's just, like disasters that happened on this day in history and everything like that. So I don't know. Is there a day that's better than all the other days? Or is there a day that's worse than all the other days? Or might
according to Miss Congeniality, the best day is April 15th.
Oh, tax
day?
It's
not too hot and it's not too cold.
It's not too hot. It's not too cold. All right. Well, that's good. I like that. But OCD will say there is, right? There are bad numbers and bad days and bad times and bad years and bad whatever else's are going to happen.
Whatever comes to mind, right, can be bad.
Yeah.
Even things you enjoy, right, can end up being bad if we let it control too much.
Right. I remember people who were so freaked out about 1-3-13, right? It's going to be 13-13, 2013, as in,
Yeah.
back when you were 12, Monique, so.
Okay.
But I remember running a group and there were people who were freaking out. And I was like, what am I supposed to be afraid of? Like it's 13s and it's going to be on a Friday or something. I mean, it was just like all these things and like, okay. And what's going to happen? The world could end. Well, it could happen tomorrow too, on the 14th or the 15th or,
I always tell them, just let it be a surprise, right?
Yeah.
Why do you want to know? Just be surprised with the rest of us.
Yeah. OCD loves to, even if it's a maybe that they said, make it a real truthiness to it, right? And make it a almost reality kind of thing. And what a jerk of a disorder it is for doing such a thing. I say
so rude.
So rude. Yeah.
This one's a good one.
Which one? Read it off.
Can you be absolutely certain that something is unfigureoutable?
Oh, that something is unfigureoutable? No, I can't be absolutely uncertain or certain that something is or is not unfigureoutable. I can say the only certainty that I'd say on that is that with the knowledge that we have today and the mechanisms for being able to figure some things out, there are things at this moment we don't know and we haven't yet figured out. But that also doesn't disqualify us from ever being able to figure out such a thing. And so that's what I love about science. And that's why I find myself all these going toward the scientific aspect of things of I'm okay with I don't know, right? I'm not bothered by I don't know whatsoever because it just means that we're not there yet. But it doesn't mean that we'll never get there.
Right. With more information, maybe it will then be figured out.
Maybe it will be.
Then, right. And I told my clients one of our uncertainty response written statements is we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
All right.
That's one.
Like, okay, right. Like if you don't know, right, great. We'll figure that out. Yeah.
We're fixing to get ready to get there. So yeah.
I know that's your favorite phrase.
It's my favorite phrase.
Southern phrase.
After I lived in Mississippi for 2 years, I picked that one up down there. And my best friend's dad was from West Virginia. So he would say, we're fitting to get ready, not even fixing. We're fitting. We're fitting to get ready. Yeah.
My grandma, she's from Alabama. She says fixing.
Fixing? Yeah. I love it. Tell your grandma I said hi, by the way.
I will.
I'm sure she's a lovely, lovely lady.
She's an angel. I'm biased, but she's an absolute angel.
Gabriella says, my whole life feels like urgency. Boy, OCD does put a rush on everything. And you, as in this just went to the top of the list and it must be figured out now. Yes, you may be losing your job. Yes, your family might leave you, but what if you left the door open and the rabbit gets out? That would be the worst thing ever in the world because you would be responsible for that. So yes, if you do turn around now and go back home to check if the door is locked, you will be late for work, which will mean you will get fired because you're on your last warning. And your family has said to you that if you can't keep this job, because this is the 5th job that you've had now in a year that you have not been able to keep because of OCD, they've said that if you lose this one, that they're going to move out and they're going to move in with the in-laws and they're going to live there. And you're going to need to go get therapy and prove to them before they move back in with you. And you may say, yeah, but the rabbit, and you turn around and the door's locked and you go to work and you're like, maybe this time they'll just not see me. And they meet you at the door with a box of your stuff and say, sorry. And you got to go home and you got to tell your family, and they say, sorry. And guess what's not going to take any responsibility for that whatsoever? OCD. Because OCD is going to say, if you'd just done the door right the first time, you wouldn't have had to go back and check it.
Mm-hmm. Or it's just going to oops its way out of here, like the little, what's that, Skeletor and the little meme was like,
yeah.
Yes.
And that's what it's going to be. I've not once heard OCD apologize.
Oh no. Is it ever wrong?
Well, no.
Never. Right? We should trust it in all things.
Gabriella said, Dr. McGrath, have you been watching My Whole Life? Because, yeah, it's exactly like that.
Oh, no.
It's been the Truman Show.
It is true, right. Gabriella. I have a nanny cam in your home that I do watch you constantly. And by the way, your shoes are untied. Just don't want you to trip and fall. So just so you know. Oh, and the milk is bad. It expired yesterday. Just so you might need some new milk as well. But otherwise, yeah. Rupinder says ERP could stand for excruciating repeat.
I mean, but honestly though, just a little bit.
I love it's he's got excruciating question mark R capital R small e capital P EAT. Excruciating repeat. I love it.
One more time until it's not.
We might put that in the No CD t-shirt design contest or something like that, because I think that is. Mm-hmm. Hey, Monique, could you do me a favor and slack that one to me, please? I know you got it up. Rupinder, you will get all credit for it. I promise. Yes. That is wonderful. Oh my gosh, that's great. Beth says the world was supposed to end when it hit 2000. Yeah, I remember being outside when it hit 2000 and celebrating and thinking, you know, all those people who just are sitting down in their holes in the ground because they've prepped because Y2K and all the computers are going to fail and there wasn't going to be electricity. And then suddenly it was 12:01 a.m. and all the lights were still on and the water was still on. And we were like, oh. I guess it was just fixing to end instead of actually ending is all it was doing. That's what it was. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, OCD sure loves to go there.
Okay.
Random talk.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you. Typo Negative says, what could be a reason pedophilic OCD develops? I've had this for 2 months and it's truly ruined my life. I feel ashamed of the compulsions. Some words of advice. You're doing therapy. Awesome. And you're taking Luvox. Why would it develop? And do either of you want to go there? Because I got an answer. But if you want to go there, go right ahead. Mm-hmm.
Anthony, you want to go first?
I'll let you go.
Okay. So this is kicking it old school for 90s folks. I always tell people OCD is similar to like the scan button on the radio. And so if you don't remember what the scan button is, you would click it and then it will go through multiple channels and then it will stop when it got radio waves. If you clicked it, it would stop. If you didn't, it will continue to scan. Mm-hmm. OCD does something similar where it's like, oh, well, like, what if you stab your mom? And you're like, what? That's so weird. And it's like, well, what if you like actually don't love your boyfriend? You're like, that's not whatever. I was like, but what if you like to touch kids? And you're like,
yeah. Oh no, wait, there it is.
And then we stop on that radio station.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then we like replay it. And so it's always about like what gets that reaction, right? Mm-hmm. What are we concerned about? What are we fearful of? And that's really where our brains will stop and stay when it comes to OCD. Another reason why some people will notice that like over time, their OCD has kind of like changed subtypes because it's like, oh, well, great, right? You're not worried about contamination anymore. We love that. But what if you hit somebody with your car?
Yeah. Yep.
And so it's important to not get caught up in like the whys of a subtype and very much learning to just, right, like block out the intrusive thoughts as a whole, right? Like, we are not, and we're moving on. Good to know, right? Great talk, OCD. Thanks. I'll see you later. And away we go.
And if you thought my scream was weird, watch my interview with Maria Bamford, because we asked her to give sounds to different types of OCD. I was mimicking Maria in that, but yeah, you hit it on the head, right? I mean, my question would be, why wouldn't it go there? Actually, right?
Yeah.
That's what I would say. Why wouldn't it? It knows no limits, So why wouldn't it go there? And it's just the way that it is. It's going to find the thing that is most triggering to you, and once it does, it latches on.
Kind of like a metal detector, kind of just sets off that alarm, and once it kind of has that alarm, that reaction, it knows that it can pull it. It's kind of like a puppet master.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We had some people in when I was working at the intensive outpatient program at the hospital at Alexian Brothers. We had some people in who had pedophilic OCD, and a couple of my staff had just had children. So they brought their kids in one day, and they let the people with pedophilic OCD babysit their children for the day while they worked at the hospital. And that was the ERP work. They played games with them. They helped them get around the hospital. They held them. They changed them. They did everything. And what did they do? They learned, and they realized, oh wow, thoughts don't seem to make things happen. What do you know? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Before we move on to another question, I since I have the two of you here, it's always important for me to talk about not only the work we do, but to bring in like various topics. So like with Stacy, she and I do a OCD and substance use. And for the two of you, I wanted to talk a little bit about cultural identity and awareness in OCD treatment, because I think it's very important to have that discussion. And obviously, different cultural experiences can come through for OCD in different ways, and different types of families can react to, is therapy okay? Is medication okay? And I was just wondering if maybe we could just chat for a few minutes on how you work to approach that with members that you're working with, and assure them that therapy can be for everybody, and that OCD also doesn't discriminate also either, right? As well.
I think it depends, right? Like, so I guess like when we talk about culture, and particularly like right, Black culture, it very much depends on the client and kind of like the background. And so being able to have that conversation about like, well, what have been the messages around therapy that you've had?
Yeah.
Right. And so kind of just getting that, because right, like if you got somebody like me who I knew I wanted to be a therapist really young, my whole family heard about right, like mental health things for the past 20 years.
Yeah.
Versus right, like I did my thesis on right the reluctance of African Americans to engage in treatment, and like a huge part of it was just like a lack of knowledge, and just being like I don't know what I'm supposed to say. I don't know what I'm even supposed to talk to you about. Like I know that I have problems, and I know that I'm not happy, but how do I like put words to like why? And I think like separate from culture, that was like the biggest thing, was like how helping to like grab language around like what it is, like what the needs are.
Love it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially like just to top off, because Monique mentioned, because I come from multicultural backgrounds, so like Black and white, so it's I know like white, like when you're more white presenting, you do have access to therapy, versus when you're more Black, brown, or indigenous, it's much more harder. And so definitely recognizing how like when we have access, or just the accessibility, or just the openness and talking about anxiety, depression, and OCD really kind of normalizes it too in the household. Because I think as parents, back in like 2001, I think Monk was like one of the few shows that had OCD like really depicted. And then Howie Mandel, right, what I watched from No Deal or No Deal, like just talking how like they would avoid certain things, and just how, especially like in Black families, just like, oh, it's weird, like, oh, he's weird, like if you don't touch certain things, or if you don't eat certain things. And so like reframing the way like we kind of look at people's behavior. And I think recognizing that sometimes the way we did in the past may not have always worked, but I think definitely as we start normalizing and talking about therapy and seeing various people in therapy, and I think my shout out to my supervisor Sarah, just really kind of like doing the hard work.
Yeah.
Really kind of, because also with ERP, it is kind of trauma work at the same time, because we're recalibrating our relationship with anxiety, and so oftentimes we're trained to not want these emotions, not want these thoughts, and we push them away, and then it's like you have one generation doing that, 2 generations, 3, 4, and it's like now it's all kind of coming down on one person, and it's like they end up having to break the cycle, and then it's like usually once you throw one big stone and ripples happen, and just like Monique said, it's like I knew I was there, wanted to be a therapist too. When I was young, people kind of knew, but also they're like, oh, he wants to be a therapist because certain family dynamics, but also my father was when it was in therapy too, so I think that kind of broke the stigma. But also his therapy was forced, versus I wanted to go to therapy, and so I think that just noticing how when you use therapeutic tools for rehabilitation, it does help, and especially with ERP, it's like the normalization, just kind of talking about it really does. It really lets, I think, even men know that, hey, we can actually have OCD and we're not weird, we're not strange. There's nothing bad, there's nothing wrong with us. But also knowing like, hey, we can actually go get help, go get support, and not go to the gym, do cold plunges, and run away from our feelings, but actually sit in the emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. And like to piggyback off of what you said, like I think right when you talk about like if we're gonna go and like why we want to and all those things, like when like even my first experience with ERP was like I taught myself how to do it because I had a snake phobia. And like I was a therapist for several years before I had even considered like, oh wait, this is a problem. Right? And so like not noticing those things or like having people point them out to you, like that was kind of when like it was pointed out to me, like I didn't even recognize like that I was doing things that like just weren't healthy until someone else was like, this is, and I was like, oh, you
like
got it for sure. And so yeah, it's like awareness, right? It's awareness that like that something like that is even possible, right? Like that there's things that out there that could help you. And I think there does have to also be like on right the mental health community to outreach and say like, hey, are these things happening, right? Like, do you recognize these things? Because a lot of times in African American care, things present differently for right like Black people than they would for other races. And my cousin actually, she just recently talked about her experience with therapy, and she was like, I didn't know how bad things were. She was like, because I was just holding so much of it like physically, and it was coming out not as anxiety, but like I just had to control all these things, like because I just didn't know how else to live. And so like being able to spot those things and kind of like again, like give that message out, like, oh hey, have you considered that this actually is not healthy for you and this is not healthy? And kind of like spreading the message of like of reasons why you might want to come to therapy. And I think that sometimes is super helpful.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love to when our members challenge us for things. You know, I didn't eat coleslaw for 30 years because I threw it up when I was 4 years old, which I am not trivializing that. I will tell you my point here because after those wonderful, you're like, and now he's talking about coleslaw. But I was talking about how I hated it. And someone asked me why. And I told them like, why don't you do what you would tell me to do? And I was like, God, you would have. And so I did. I got coleslaw. And you know, food aversion is one of the most evolutionarily based things any of us will ever have. We eat something, we get sick. We don't want it again. It wasn't the coleslaw that I had strep. I just had eaten coleslaw. It was the last thing I ate. So I'm projectile vomiting coleslaw around the house when I'm 4 years old. And I've just associated that with coleslaw since I was 4 years old. But someone called me out on it. It's like, you know what? You're absolutely right. Now, I say that because Monique, you don't ever have to like snakes. You just got to know that you can handle them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I talk to my clients about that a lot. I was like, I still hate snakes, y'all. Right. Like I like a lot. And right. But like it's about learning that like, you know, I don't have to do anything about that. Right. I don't have to like change my life or work around or do all these other like compulsions and things that I was doing just because I don't like snakes. So that could just be like true for me. And right, it's been, I don't even know how many years since I did it. And like, and this is just a tip for everybody out there. ERP is a use it or you lose it kind of situation, just like a language. You do have to do your maintenance. Okay?
Yeah. You know,
right.
hey, could you two explain that a little bit? Because there's some new people tonight and someone was asking what's ERP. So could you guys tell them what ERP is?
Yeah. So ERP stands for exposure and response prevention treatment, right? So we will expose you to things that increase your anxiety that you're fearful of, right? We do a whole deep dive into like what your concerns are, why you feel those concerns. Will exposure to those things and help you learn some distress tolerance when we do get anxious, right? How do we sit with that? How do we allow these things to be true, right? And avoiding being able to like get into that like mental spin that OCD loves to like take us on that journey. So yeah, that's my little short answer.
Anthony,
definitely deepens the mind body. Yeah, definitely deepens the mind body connection because you're recognizing how do your thoughts play a role in creating your OCD, but also what are your behaviors? Because here we recognize we're going to be anxious, but what are we doing that's keeping this anxiety hostage or keeping us hostage? And so it's kind of like we're recognizing the sensations, but also any urges to move and to react. And very much we're doing the opposite. We're staying present, we're anchoring in these feelings in the body, very much interoceptives, where we're allowing all the sensations to come up, but we recognize there's nothing ringing the alarm. So it's helping us kind of move forward.
And we're really working on eliminating safety behaviors. That's response prevention. So if your typical response to being exposed to something uncomfortable, and what are we talking about tonight? Obsessions, which are thoughts, images, and urges that we find to be maybe intrusive, inappropriate, unwanted. They lead to shame, guilt, disgust, distress, anxiety, any other untoward emotion that you can name there. And so do we want to do? We want to neutralize it, maybe because we fear if we don't, we accept it or we like it or we want it or something bad will happen if we don't do something to make it go away right away. And so response prevention is the elimination of the compulsion, right? It is getting rid of that and allowing for us to be in that situation. So, for example, going back to the thing we talked about a little bit earlier, I've got a note in my wallet that says, "I hope my parents die tonight, please God." And there's a 666 on it, and it's been in there for 18 years. Not because I want my parents to die, but because I was working with someone who thought if I think something negative about my parents and I don't say a prayer afterwards, they'll be dead by the end of the day. And I said, you know what? I'm willing to test that with you if you're willing. And when they were finally willing, it was like, okay, let's do it. So I wrote that down and I said, I'll tell you what, I will keep this card in my wallet forever. If you ever see me on the street, or if you see me at a conference, you can say, hey, I'm the card guy, and I'll bring the card out and I'll show you that it'll be there. Now, it's been there for 18 years. Mom and dad are still around. One day they won't be, though. I don't believe the card is the thing that's going to kill them. I think that had I not written the card, they still would have died at some point also. So I'm going to sit with the discomfort and learn that I can handle it, be there in the experience, live. And I'm trying to get myself out of saying sit with discomfort. I want people to live in discomfort, live in uncertainty, because OCD is always saying you should have no discomfort. You should have no uncertainty. And what we're saying is, you can handle discomfort. You can handle uncertainty. You do every day. Every day you walk up and down the stairs. You don't have 100% guarantee you're not going to fall. So we live in uncertainty every day. Most of it we just don't give a crap about. And OCD says, well, those are fine. But this one, this one's different. This one needs a special focus. And that's why we have to do compulsions. So that's what we're looking at.
Yeah.
Well, everyone, you've spent a lovely hour with us. Thank you so much. I want to thank my guests tonight, Monique and Anthony. It's been a blast having the two of you here. I really appreciate it in our discussions. And I want to thank all of you for joining us. If you're looking for help for OCD, check us out at nocd.com. That's nocd.com, an online platform for the treatment of OCD and related conditions. We work with hoarding and body-focused repetitive behaviors and tics and obsessive compulsive disorder, of course. And we do work with individuals, with families, and one of my favorite things that we do is what I call the NoCD 411 session. So if you've got questions about OCD, but you're not maybe quite ready for prime time therapy, or you're a family member of someone you want to know about how to help them, we got some of those questions tonight about what to do. come to nocd.com, set up a NoCD 411 session. You can meet with one of our experts and they can have an hour of time with you to talk about OCD, what it is, and what some things might be able to do helpful. It's not a therapy session. It's a great information session. So check us out for that. That being said, we'll be back again next Wednesday. Thank you all for joining us, and go out there and do some ERP, everyone. Okay.
Yeah. Bye.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Have a great